Acca 10. His name almost got him replaced. Leonardo DiCaprio has one of the most recognizable names on Earth today, but back in the early days, his very name was seen as a problem. Born in Los Angeles in 1974, Leonardo Wilhelm DiCaprio didn't come from Hollywood royalty. His mother was a legal secretary from Germany, and his father was an underground comic book artist. They named him Leonardo because his mother, while pregnant, was looking at a painting by Leonardo da Vinci when she felt him kick for the first time. A beautiful, artistic story, right? Except Hollywood agents didn't think so. When he was just starting to audition as a child actor, his agent told him flat out, "Leonardo DiCaprio is too ethnic, too strange, too hard for Americans to say. You'll never get a job with that name." The agent suggested he change it to something more marketable, like Lenny Williams. Imagine that. Lenny Williams on the poster for Titanic. Sounds wrong, doesn't it? But Leonardo, even as a young boy, refused. He said no, he would keep his real name. That decision, as small as it may have seemed at the time, was a moment of pure defiance. In an industry built on reinvention, he insisted on being himself. Think about how gutsy that was for a 12-year-old. It would have been so easy to cave in, to Americanize his name like so many immigrant kids were pressured to do. Instead, he stood his ground. And here's the twist. The very thing people told him would hold him back, his unusual name, became part of his mystique. Leonardo DiCaprio sounds like someone important, someone unforgettable. It sticks in your head, just like Marlon Brando or Al Pacino. Today, people all over the world, from Tokyo to New York to Rome, know that name. By refusing to compromise, Leonardo made his first mark on history before he ever stepped in front of a camera. But his path to stardom wasn't smooth. He had to prove that he wasn't just another cute kid with a difficult name, and he proved it in a way few actors ever could. Number 9. He was almost too good in his first big role. Leonardo A.'s first true breakout came in 1993 with a film that shocked critics and audiences alike. What A.S. Eating Gilbert Grape. He was only 19 years old when he played Arnie, the mentally disabled younger brother of Johnny Depp's character. Now, here's the thing. DiCaprio was so convincing, so authentic in the role, that when the movie came out, people actually thought the filmmakers had cast a real disabled boy. That's not just talent, that's transformation. He didn't play Arnie like a caricature or like a stereotype. He captured the little nuances, the way Arnie moved, the way he laughed, the unpredictability of his emotions. He spent weeks studying mannerisms, watching documentary footage, and immersing himself in behaviors that would bring Arnie to life. This was long before method acting became a buzzword on social media. He was just a teenager, yet he had the discipline of a seasoned professional. Critics were stunned. Roger Ebert called his performance remarkable. The Academy noticed, too. At just 19, Leonardo earned his very first Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Think about that for a second. Most actors spend decades chasing just one nomination. Leonardo was barely out of high school, already rubbing shoulders with Hollywood's elite on Oscar night. But here's the crazy part. That nomination almost hurt him more than it helped. Because DiCaprio was so believable as Arnie, casting directors worried he might be typecast. Some even wondered, is this kid actually disabled? Can he play anything else? Imagine being so good at your craft that people assume you can't possibly be acting. Yet, instead of letting himself be pigeonholed, Leonardo used that performance as a launching pad. He showed Hollywood that he could vanish into any role. That Oscar nomination didn't lock him into one type of character, it opened the door to everything else. Without What's Eating, Gilbert Grape, there's no Romeo in Romeo v. Juliet, no Jack Dawson in Titanic, no Jordan Belfort in The Wolf of Wall Street. This moment also revealed something crucial about Leonardo's approach. He wasn't chasing fame for its own sake. He wanted to be a serious actor, one who would push boundaries and disappear into roles. At 19, he had already demonstrated the kind of commitment most actors spend their whole careers trying to master. And that's just the beginning. We've only scratched the surface of Leonardo DiCaprio's incredible journey, starting with the name that almost cost him his career, and the performance that made people question whether he was acting at all. From this point on, every step he took would push him closer to Hollywood legend. Number 8. He became a heartthrob against his will. Every era of Hollywood has its heartthrob, the actor whose face ends up on bedroom posters, whose name makes talk show hosts giggle, whose fans scream outside hotels just to catch a glimpse. For the 90s, Leonardo DiCaprio became that guy. But here's the twist. He never wanted it. After his Oscar-nominated role in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Leonardo pivoted to more daring projects. He did The Basketball Diaries in 1995, a raw, disturbing film about a high school athlete who spirals into drug addiction. This wasn't a safe choice. It wasn't a feel-good story. It was gritty, painful, and risky for a rising star. But he wanted to prove he wasn't just the kid from that one movie. He wanted to show depth. Then came Baz Luhrmann's Romeo-Juliet in 1996. The movie was wild. Shakespeare's dialogue in a neon-soaked modern Verona beach with guns instead of swords and MTV-style editing. Leonardo, as Romeo, brought both intensity and vulnerability. Teenagers around the world swooned. Suddenly, his face was everywhere. Magazines, posters, interviews. He was the it boy of the decade. And of course, in 1997, everything exploded with Titanic. James Cameron's epic love story turned Leonardo into an international phenomenon. Jack Dawson was handsome, charming, selfless, the perfect fantasy hero. The film made over $2 billion worldwide and changed pop culture forever. But here's what people didn't know. Leonardo DiCaprio hated being labeled a teen idol. He thought it cheapened his work. He once said he didn't want to be remembered as some poster boy with floppy hair. While tabloids were obsessed with his looks, he was obsessed with craft. In fact, after Titanic, he avoided doing another romantic lead for years. Instead, he chose darker, more challenging roles, working with Martin Scorsese in Gangs of New York and The Aviator. He was deliberately escaping the shadow of Jack Dawson. This refusal to be boxed in is what separated him from other 90s heartthrobs who faded away. Leonardo turned superstardom into a weapon. He used the money and fame from Titanic to buy himself freedom, the freedom to pick projects on his terms. He didn't get stuck playing the same character over and over again. That's why he's still relevant decades later. It's almost ironic. The very thing he didn't want, being a global icon, gave him the leverage to become the actor he always dreamed of being. Number 7. He turned down roles that could have changed movie history. One of the most fascinating things about Leonardo DiCaprio is the list of roles he didn't play. Hollywood is full of what-ifs, but Leonardo's career has some of the biggest. For instance, did you know he was offered the role of Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars: Attack of the Clones? George Lucas himself reportedly approached him. Can you imagine Leonardo with a lightsaber saying, "I hate sand"? He turned it down because he didn't feel ready for such a massive franchise commitment. And it doesn't stop there. He was also in serious talks to play Spider-Man in Sam Raimi's 2002 film. Tobey Maguire, who ended up getting the role, was actually Leonardo's close friend. The two had known each other since they were kids auditioning together in Los Angeles. Imagine the alternate universe where Leonardo swung through New York as Spider-Man, while Tobey played supporting roles. Here's another near miss. He almost starred in American Psycho. Director Mary Harron wanted him as Patrick Bateman before Christian Bale got the part. But the studio worried that Leonardo's fan base from Titanic, mostly young women, would not stomach him playing a sadistic killer. In hindsight, it might have derailed his career at the time. Then there's The Matrix. Believe it or not, Leonardo was one of the actors considered for Neo. He turned it down, partly because he had just done Titanic and didn't even want to jump into another massive special effects-driven blockbuster. Keanu Reeves got the role, and the rest is history. What's amazing is that these weren't just small projects. These were career-defining roles. Yet Leonardo didn't chase every big opportunity. He was selective. He turned things down not out of arrogance, but out of instinct. He seemed to know that the wrong blockbuster could trap him, while the right project could elevate him. And here's the kicker. Even without those roles, his career flourished. He didn't need to be Spider-Man or Neo to become an icon. Instead, he carved out his own path, working repeatedly with auteurs like Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, and Alejandro González Iñárritu. He wasn't defined by the roles he missed, but by the ones he chose. In a way, that makes his story even more impressive. Most actors would give anything to star in Star Wars or The Matrix. Leonardo had the courage to say no, and by doing so, he protected his long game. He wasn't chasing short-term fame. He was building a career meant to last. Leonardo DiCaprio. S' journey through the 90s into the early 2000s wasn't just about becoming a star. It was about taking control. He resisted being defined as a heartthrob. He refused roles that didn't feel right, and he constantly pushed himself to be more than Hollywood expected. That's why, decades later, he's not just remembered as the guy from Titanic. He's remembered as one of the greatest actors of his generation. Figure 6. His partnership with Martin Scorsese changed his life. When people think of Leonardo DiCaprio today, they think of not just one or two great performances, but an entire body of work spanning genres: crime dramas, biopics, psychological thrillers, survival epics. And a huge part of that is thanks to his partnership with Martin Scorsese, arguably the greatest living filmmaker in America. It all began in 2002 with Gangs of New York. Leonardo starred as Amsterdam Vallon, a young Irish-American seeking revenge in the brutal 5 points of 19th-century New York. The film paired him with Daniel Day-Lewis, one of the greatest actors of all time who played Bill the Butcher. Critics were skeptical. Could the Titanic Kid hold his own against Day-Lewis? The answer was a resounding yes. Leonardo's intensity, combined with Scorsese's vision, proved he was more than ready to step into heavyweight territory. That film was just the beginning. Over the next 2 decades, Scorsese and DiCaprio would collaborate on a string of masterpieces. The Aviator in 2004, where Leonardo played the eccentric billionaire Howard Hughes; The Departed in 2006, a Boston crime thriller that finally earned Scorsese his long-overdue Oscar for Best Director; Shutter Island in 2010, a haunting psychological drama; The Wolf of Wall Street in 2013, an explosive portrait of greed and excess; and most recently, Killers of the Flower Moon in 2023, a chilling exploration of betrayal and corruption. Together, Scorsese and DiCaprio became one of the most powerful duos in modern cinema, comparable to De Niro and Scorsese in the 70s. In fact, Scorsese himself has said that Leonardo reminds him of a young De Niro, intense, fearless, and willing to push himself to extremes. What's fascinating is that Leonardo could have coasted after Titanic, picking easy blockbusters for massive paychecks. Instead, he sought out a director known for demanding complexity, depth, and grit. He wanted to be challenged. He wanted to risk failure. That decision didn't just give us some of the best films of the century. It redefined his entire career. And in the process, he became something rare in Hollywood, an actor who could draw both box office success and critical acclaim. Few can do both, but Leonardo, thanks to Scorsese, mastered that balance. Figure 5. He waited over 20 years for his first Oscar. If you ask people today about Leonardo DiCaprio, many will recall the endless jokes, memes, and headlines about how he never won an Oscar. For years, it became a running gag in pop culture. Every time he was nominated, people would hold their breath, only to see him lose again. But what many don't realize is how that long wait says more about his persistence and talent than about bad luck. His first nomination came in 1994 for What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Then, over the years, came more: The Aviator, Blood Diamond, The Wolf of Wall Street. Each time he delivered powerful, unforgettable performances, but the golden statue slipped away. Some said he was cursed. Others said the Academy didn't take him seriously because he had started as a teen idol. Whatever the reason, Leonardo remained undeterred. He kept pushing himself, choosing roles that demanded everything from him. Finally, in 2016, the drought ended. For his role in The Revenant, directed by Alejandro González Iñárritu, he won Best Actor. But here's what makes it incredible. He earned that Oscar by enduring one of the most brutal shoots in film history. In The Revenant, Leonardo played Hugh Glass, a 19th-century frontiersman left for dead after a bear attack. To capture the raw survival story, the cast and crew filmed in freezing Canadian wilderness. Leonardo ate raw bison liver on camera. He plunged into icy rivers. He endured temperatures so low that cameras froze. He once admitted, "It was the hardest film I've ever done." That performance wasn't just acting, it was suffering for art. And when he finally walked up to accept his Oscar, the world erupted. Social media exploded with cheers and memes. But beyond the celebration, it was a moment of poetic justice. The actor who had been dismissed as just a heartthrob, who had been mocked for missing out year after year, had finally been recognized by the industry's highest honor. What's more, he used his acceptance speech not to gloat, but to highlight climate change, one of his greatest passions. In that moment, he proved he wasn't just an actor, he was a voice for something bigger. Leonardo DiCaprio's career could have ended with Titanic, but instead, he reinvented himself into a legend. His partnership with Scorsese transformed him from a star into an artist. His long journey to the Oscar showed his resilience and dedication. And both stories remind us of why he's more than just another Hollywood name. He's a symbol of persistence, vision, and excellence. Oscar 4. He turned his wealth into activism. Most Hollywood stars give a soundbite or two about making the world a better place, but few commit their fortune and influence the way Leonardo DiCaprio has. While he's been one of the highest-paid actors in the world, Leonardo has never been shy about putting his money where his mouth is. His cause? Saving the planet. In 1998, at just 24 years old, he launched the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, long before eco-friendly became a buzzword. His foundation has supported over 200 environmental projects across 50 countries, protecting endangered species, restoring ecosystems, and funding renewable energy initiatives. He has given tens of millions of dollars to these causes, quietly making one of the largest personal contributions of any celebrity activist. But money is just one part. Leonardo has used his fame as a platform. He produced documentaries like The 11th Hour and Before the Flood, exposing the dangers of climate change and environmental destruction. He even addressed the United Nations, warning world leaders that climate change is the most urgent threat facing our entire species. And he didn't just read a speech, he showed up consistently, lending his star power to draw attention to scientific issues many people ignored. Now here's the irony. Leonardo has often been criticized for the same thing he fights against. Tabloids love to point out when he takes a private jet or vacations on a yacht. But instead of running from criticism, he has acknowledged the contradictions. He once admitted, "I'm not perfect, but I'm trying." That honesty, combined with the sheer scale of his contributions, has given him credibility in the environmental movement. Think about it. How many A-list actors can say they've spent more time fighting for the earth than chasing endorsements? For Leonardo, activism isn't a hobby. It's a second career. And in a strange way, it mirrors his film career. Just as he turned down easy roles to protect his artistic legacy, he's invested in environmental work that will outlive him. It's not glamorous, but it's lasting. Number 3. He has built a reputation for loyalty and selective choices. Hollywood is a world where friendships often last only as long as a movie shoot. But Leonardo DiCaprio has always been different. He's fiercely loyal to his circle of friends and collaborators, building bonds that have lasted decades. This loyalty is one of the quiet keys to his success. Let's start with his friendships. Leonardo grew up in Los Angeles, surrounded by other young actors, and one of his closest companions was Tobey Maguire. The two met auditioning as teenagers, and instead of being rivals, they became best friends. They even made a pact. If one of them got a part in a project, he'd recommend the other. That pact paid off, helping them both land roles in their early days. Decades later, they're still close, often spotted together at basketball games or family gatherings. Another example, Martin Scorsese. Once Leonardo proved himself in Gangs of New York, he became Scorsese's go-to leading man, almost like Robert De Niro in the 70s and 80s. That loyalty worked both ways. Scorsese trusted Leonardo to carry his ambitious projects, and Leonardo trusted Scorsese to push him into roles that stretched his limits. The results speak for themselves, film after film that defined an era. But Leonardo's loyalty isn't blind. It goes hand in hand with his notorious selectiveness. He doesn't take on projects lightly. In fact, he sometimes spends years between films, waiting for the right script and the right director. While other actors churn out movies just to stay in the spotlight, Leonardo treats each role like a major life decision. That's why his filmography is so consistent. No embarrassing sequels, no throwaway cash-grab comedies. This selective approach has even influenced his love life. While tabloids endlessly cover his relationships, Leonardo has kept his private world tightly controlled. He doesn't flaunt every detail or use his personal life for publicity. Instead, he maintains boundaries that most celebrities can't. His loyalty to privacy is part of what gives him that mysterious aura. He's visible everywhere, yet hard to truly know. And here's what ties it all together. Leonardo isn't loyal out of obligation. He's loyal because it gives him stability in an unstable industry. By surrounding himself with trusted collaborators and friends, he built a career that isn't just successful, it's sustainable. When you see him on screen, you're not just seeing an actor delivering lines. You're seeing the result of decades of carefully chosen partnerships, the kind that Hollywood rarely sustains. Leonardo DiCaprio isn't just a star because of his talent. He's a star because he thinks long-term, in his activism, in his friendships, in his career choices. While others chase short-term fame, he plays the long game, and it shows. That's why, decades after his debut, he's still at the top of his field. Nearer too, he lives like a regular guy, despite being worth hundreds of millions. Here, as the irony of Leonardo DiCaprio, he was one of the wealthiest actors in the world, with a net worth estimated at over $260 million. Yet he often lives more like a middle-class guy from Los Angeles than a global superstar. Unlike many celebrities, Leonardo doesn't constantly flaunt luxury cars or gaudy mansions. Sure, he owns property, but he's also been spotted riding city bikes in New York, grabbing burgers at In-N-Out, or just walking the streets like anyone else. Fans have shared countless stories of running into him at everyday places, concerts, coffee shops, even local bookstores. In Hollywood, where many stars wall themselves off behind gates and entourages, Leonardo remains approachable in surprising ways. He's also famous for re-wearing clothes. Paparazzi shots often show him in the same hoodie or baseball cap from years earlier. While other stars chase fashion headlines, Leonardo looks like the guy you'd bump into at a Lakers game. It's part of what keeps him relatable. Of course, he does enjoy luxuries, yachts, vacations, exclusive parties, but even those often serve his environmental activism. For example, when critics attacked him for attending climate conferences while traveling on private jets, he countered by investing millions into green technologies and sustainable solutions. His lifestyle, while imperfect, reflects a balance. He's not hiding from fame, but he's not consumed by it either. And maybe that's why fans adore him. He feels both untouchable and human. A man who can star in multi-million-dollar productions but also eat pizza on a New York sidewalk. In a world of celebrities obsessed with image, Leonardo's low-key vibe feels authentic, and authenticity is rare currency in Hollywood. Number 1. His obsession with acting borders on the extreme. The number one fact about Leonardo DiCaprio is also the simplest. He is absolutely, almost obsessively, dedicated to his craft. For him, acting isn't just a job, it's a total immersion. Take The Revenant. Most actors would have balked at eating raw bison liver or crawling half-naked across frozen landscapes. Leonardo embraced it. He described the shoot as a living hell, but he believed that only by experiencing real suffering could he deliver the truth of Hugh Glass' story. Or look at The Aviator. To play Howard Hughes, Leonardo researched obsessively, learning the smallest details of Hughes's eccentric behavior. He even worked with doctors to accurately portray obsessive-compulsive disorder, making sure his performance captured not just the surface but the psychological depth of the condition. In The Wolf of Wall Street, he improvised some of the film's wildest, most iconic moments, including the chest-thumping scene with Matthew McConaughey. He pushed himself to extremes, embodying the chaos and greed of Jordan Belfort so convincingly that audiences alternated between laughing and recoiling in disgust. That's the mark of an actor in complete control. His preparation goes beyond scripts. He studies history, psychology, and behavior for each role, often spending months, even years, diving into research. He once said, "When I decide to do a movie, I want to live and breathe that character." That level of intensity explains why his performances feel so raw and alive. And here's the kicker, he doesn't phone it in, ever. Even after decades of success, he treats each role like it could be his last. That relentless pursuit of excellence is why he's respected not just by fans, but by fellow actors and directors. When people call him one of the greatest of his generation, it isn't hype. It's the result of years of extreme dedication. Leonardo DiCaprio's story is more than the sum of his films. It's the story of a boy who refused to change his name, who risked being typecast, who turned fame into freedom. It's the story of a man who waited decades for Hollywood's highest honor and used the spotlight to talk about the planet. It's the story of someone who can live humbly yet perform ferociously, balancing superstardom with authenticity. From Jack Dawson on the Titanic to Jordan Belfort on Wall Street, from a struggling kid in Los Angeles to one of the most powerful names in cinema, Leonardo DiCaprio has given us not just movies but lessons in resilience, passion, and staying true to who you are. If you enjoyed diving into the hidden truths behind Leonardo DiCaprio's life, don't stop here. Smash that like button to help more people discover these stories. Share this video with friends who love movies as much as you do, because everyone thinks they know Leonardo. But now you've seen the deeper layers, and if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you won't miss our next countdown of fascinating, untold stories from the world's biggest icons. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned for more secrets revealed.